soon as some people join. This is going to be a digital art Q&A live stream where you can ask me questions about digital art or about being an artist. So I'll go ahead and just kind of start doodling here until we get some people in the chat room, and then I'll start answering questions as they come in. Hello there, thanks for joining me. Feel free to comment in and ask me questions about digital art or about being an artist in general. This is a special Q&A live stream. Right now I'm just doodling a jack-o'-lantern since Halloween is coming up. I thought that might be kind of fun. That's a sick pumpkin. Yeah, it's just a start. I'll be adding to it a little bit more. Thank you. This is just going to be my sketch that I'm doing here. And I'm going to turn down the opacity of that sketch. Hello, Landon Hughes, and hello, Alfred. Feel free to comment in and ask me questions about digital art, or you can just hang out and watch me doodle. How y'all doing today? Is it morning, or is it evening, or is it afternoon? What part of the world are you guys in? I'm in Seattle, so it's a little bit afternoon here during the day. So I'm going to create a new layer for my pumpkin. I like to do these sketches first. That helps me plot everything out, and then I'll go through and I'll kind of flesh it out. I'm using the symmetry painting mode. That makes it a little bit easier. And the program I'm using here, if you're not familiar with it, is called Corel Painter. Cam Howen says it's 3:45 a.m. Wow, you're up late. I stay up pretty late too. Landon Hughes is doing good. It's midday here in Michigan. Awesome. And Alfred says it's 21:42. So yes, it's pretty late for Alfred as well. I never know when to do these live streams because, you know, like here, probably a lot of people are at work or taking lunch, but then there's, you know, just as many people that are at home on the other side of the world. So there really is not a good time to do a live stream. So either somebody's gonna be able to see it or someone's gonna miss out. So I just try to do them whenever. Sometimes I do them during the day, sometimes I do them at night. Cam is from Malaysia. Howdy, Cam from Malaysia. Okay, so I did my pumpkin. I'm just gonna do it kind of sloppy here. And feel free to ask me questions about digital art or tablets or being an artist in general, because that's kind of what this special Q&A live stream is supposed to be about. But I am going to doodle so that you have something to look at besides my face. So the stem I'm going to do on a layer separate from, oops, and I don't want it to be symmetrical, so I'm going to turn that mirror painting off. Having some asymmetry is going to help here. And then I will do I guess I'll just do the rest of the face on its own layer. And by the way, there is a tutorial on my YouTube channel that'll show you how to paint the same jack-o'-lantern, but it's a little more detailed. So if you're interested in following along with that after the live stream, you can always check that out. This one's going to be kind of a more simple version because the other one took quite a while, and I don't want to be too focused on the drawing here. I want to be able to answer questions. It's kind of hard to draw and to talk at the same time, I found, but I'm hoping to get better at that. Okay, so we can hide the sketch. We don't need that anymore. And then to kind of smooth this out, I'm going to go to that pumpkin layer, and I'll show you a neat little trick here. Rather than trying to erase this or redraw it to smooth out the edge, you can use the pinch brush, which is one of the distortion brushes in Painter. And what pinch does is it just kind of sucks the pixels in towards the center like a vacuum. It kind of pinches them together. So if you use this brush to paint over this line, you may be able to see it's kind of smoothing it out and re-sculpting it. So anywhere where it was kind of lumpy, it's now going to be nice and smooth. That's okay if the pumpkin's a little lumpy. I mean, really, when you go and you get a pumpkin from the grocery store or whatever to carve it, they're very rarely symmetrical. You know, they're a little bit off on one side or the other. So I'm going to do that on the stem. The stem can be a little more lopsided. I'm going to turn off mirror painting mode. So I don't want that to paint symmetrically there. Something like that looks pretty good. And the face needs a little bit of work. Turn mirror painting back on. And I'm going to use the scratchboard tool with black on the face layer. We got a question from Alfred. Alfred says that they're saving up for a Cintiq right now. They're torn between the 13 HD and the companion hybrid. 13 HD is cheaper, but being able to unplug it seems nice. Do you think the hybrid is worth it? Between the 13 HD and the hybrid, they're basically the same thing. The only difference is you can take the hybrid out, and you can, of course, paint with it when it's not attached to the computer. The only problem with that is that the software is limited to whatever will run on an Android operating system, and I haven't actually really used too many Android programs. I know there's a few out there that are okay. Like on my smartphone, I have Art Rage. I think it's 3 or 3.5, and you know, you can paint with it, but it's very, very, very basic compared to the desktop versions or the versions that'll run on Windows and Mac. So if that's really the only difference in the tablet, I mean, there might be some other minor differences, but as far as I know, they're basically the same tablet. I would just go ahead and get the 13 if the 13 is cheaper. Now, you might be able to find, you know, if you could find the hybrid for cheaper, then you could get the hybrid. I'm not really sure what the pricing is on those, because I know that the hybrid's a lot less popular now that the Cintiq Companion 2 came out. So you might be able to find like a used or refurbished hybrid rather than a brand new 13. So, you know, I don't know. If it was me, I would probably just go with a 13 because I'm not really all that impressed by the Android software on the hybrid. Landon is asking for the Wacom Intuos art for Christmas. Yeah, that looks like a pretty good tablet. I think out of the newer models, the art's probably the best one, considering the software that it comes with. And it also comes in small or medium, so, you know, if you can get the medium, that's even better, because it's nice to have a lot of room to draw rather than something tiny. But both the medium and small versions will work well. And then the older versions aren't that bad either, like the Wacom Intuos Pen and Touch was the previous generation, which I have here. This is the small version, and this is still a pretty good tablet too. Very similar to the art and those newer models. Oops, my pen just flew out of it. Now that's a good thing too. Whoa, having trouble holding my pen today. These pens are pretty durable, you know, like I can't speak for this one in particular because I haven't dropped it that much. But my pen for my Cintiq, I've dropped it a bunch of times, like, I don't know, dozens of times. And I've never really like dropped it hard or like stepped on it or anything, so it's never broken. But it's always worked fine. I believe there aren't a whole lot of really sensitive parts in it. There's no batteries or anything, so pens are pretty durable. That's a good thing. I'm noticing over here on my live stream that I'm watching, the picture of me is like glitching out and my head is like moving back and forth really fast, and it's like frozen and tweaking out. So if you want to comment in and let me know if the audio is still okay and if the stream is still working, because I'm looking over and it's like glitching out. I don't know if that's just on my end or what, but that was really strange. Gilgamesh says, I haven't answered their question yet on the 2015-2016 tablet review. They don't know which one to choose between the two. Gilgamesh, I get probably, I don't know, tons and tons of questions every day about which tablet you should buy, and I'm intentionally not answering that question because I have probably 5 or 10 videos that clarify what I think you should buy as far as the tablet. I also, if you go to my website, aaronrutten.com, and you look under the tablets and the software section, there's actually a chart that I took the time to make that compares all of the different features of each of those tablets. So it's really up to you to decide which tablet you want to buy. I can't tell you which tablet is the best for you. I've already made my recommendations. I've already spent a lot of time to make those videos and to make that chart, so I don't have to answer that question every time somebody asks me. So I'm not going to answer that, sorry. If you had to choose between those two, Intuos Touch and Pen Medium, Intuos Pro, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, that's really up to you to decide. The information's out there and I made it, and I don't like answering that question because I get asked it so much. So sorry, I'm not going to answer that for you. Landon says the stream is working. It's lagging a little bit, but the audio doesn't seem to match up with your mouth. Yeah, I mean, that might just be, you know, how the stream is. Sorry about that. The audio is fine, but the face cam is delayed. Yeah. I don't know what that is. That might be how I have it set up on my end, or it might just be the connection here. Let me see if there's anything that I can do on my end to close out some stuff here. See if I have any little windows open I can close. That might help. Gilgamesh watched them, but they can't decide if the $75 is worth it. Let's see, Intuos Touch, Intuos Pen and Touch Medium, or the Intuos Pro Small. I'll go ahead and answer this, but just for the record, if anybody else wants to ask me which tablet to buy, please just watch my videos, because if you were me and you got asked this question every day, it would start to bug you too. Intuos Pen and Touch Medium is going to be bigger, so having a bigger tablet is an advantage because you got more room to draw, and I would say that should be your primary goal, is to have something that's pretty big. Now, the Intuos Small has more features. It's a better quality tablet, so that's a hard thing to decide, you know, like if I had to choose between the two, the difference between the medium Intuos Pen and Touch Small and the Pro, as far as I can tell, the Intuos Pro Small will come with a wireless receiver if you want to use wireless. I prefer to leave my tablet plugged in through USB, so I don't know if that would be an advantage to me, but that's something to consider. The surface is a little bit different on the Intuos Pro. It's a little more grainy, and some people say it wears down their tips faster. I like the graininess, so that wasn't really a problem. The shortcut keys are going to be different on the Intuos Pro. You're going to have more shortcut keys that are laid out a little bit better. So that's a hard thing to say. They're they each have pros and cons. If size is going to matter, I would get the bigger tablet. If the shortcut keys mattered more to you, then I would get the Intuos Pro. So that's the best I can do on that. Cam says they will choose the Intuos Pro Medium. Yeah, that's an option. Save up a little bit more if you're saving up anyways and get the Intuos Pro Medium. That would be a good tablet because then you got a big tablet and, it has all the features. And I've owned one of those. They're actually really good. So that's a consideration. I know I said this is going to be a Q&A live stream, and then someone asked me about a question, and I'm like, I'm not going to answer that. But that's just, again, that's a question that I get all the time. If you look at my comments, it's like every single day someone is asking me that question, and, I've answered it lots of times. What's the name of the jack-o'-lantern? What's his or her personality like? I wish I could show you how this stream is glitching out. Like, I'll look over occasionally and I'm like, for like half a second. I don't know what that is. The name of the jack-o'-lantern, I don't know. How about you guys give me suggestions for a name? I haven't thought that far. I thought they were all named Jack O'Lantern, but maybe not. So I'm going to go back to I'm going to kind of work on this a little bit while some more questions come in. But if you're looking for a tablet, do check out that chart on my website, aaronrutten.com/products, because there's a nice chart that compares all of the new Intuos tablets and some of the older ones from the second generation, including the Intuos Pro. And you can see side by side what features they have, what features they don't have. It makes it really, really easy to decide. But it's one of those things that I can give you advice and I can say this is what I would buy, but I'm not you. That's why it's hard for me to answer that question, People could recommend to me things to buy, and ultimately what I would do is I would take a lot of time to really think about it and think about, what do I really need, what don't I need, and then make that decision on my own. That's really the way to do it with anything. But I have narrowed it down. I mean, I'll tell you what not to buy, Don't buy those cheap Chinese brands like Huion and UG and UC Logic and Monoprice, because those things are not a good investment in the long run. Like, they'll work. You can do basic drawing with them, but their build quality is really poor. Their customer service is really poor. The pens take batteries to use. Some of them make really horrible squeaking sounds when you draw on them. And so any Wacom tablet you get, as far as the newer ones, and even some of the older ones, a Wacom tablet's going to be good because Wacom is good at what they do. Let's see what we have here in the comments. Gilgamesh says the Pro Medium is $337. Yeah, it's expensive, and you got to look at it this way. Like, what are you going to do with the tablet? Are you going to use this as kind of like a hobby thing? Is it going to be for fun? Or are you going to use this professionally to make money? Because if you're going to use it professionally to make money, it's worth it to save up a little bit more and invest in that better tablet, because that's going to help you make art faster. It's going to make your process faster. It's going to just overall improve the experience of painting as a professional. And eventually, you'll make that money back. So you're investing $337 now, but then you'll make that money back by saving time and saving effort by having a nice tablet. And plus, depending on which country you live in, I mean, I'm sure it differs depending on where you live. Here in America, you can write off purchases like that. So when I do my taxes at the end of the year, I can say I spent $337 on this tablet that I used for my business, and then that's less in taxes that you have to pay. So that's another way to look at it too, is it's a business investment if you're a professional. If you're not a professional, it kind of doesn't really matter what you get. If you're just going to be doing this for fun, start out with something smaller, and eventually if you want to work your way up, go ahead and do that. And if that's the case, you're not going to be doing it professionally, then it probably doesn't matter so much if you have those shortcut keys and things like that. Cam's right. Start saving money. I mean, if you've already saved enough for the Intuos Pen and Touch Medium or the Intuos Pro Small, wait a little bit longer. Save up a little bit more money. It's really worth it in the end. I mean, I have the temptation too to get the cheaper thing. I do that all the time. Like right now, I'm looking at microphones for my camcorder, and there's a whole bunch of microphones that you can get, and there's a lot of them that are like, ooh, it's one of the best budget microphones, and I'm so close to ordering a couple of them on Amazon. But then I read the reviews, and then people say, they're pretty good, but there's this problem, or they're pretty good, but there's this problem. You should maybe save up a little more and get this more expensive mic. And I think about that. I go, yeah, they're right. I could buy something cheap right now, but I'm not going to be happy with it, and I'm going to be stuck with it. And then if I want to get something better down the road, I have to pay for that expensive tablet plus the cheaper one that I bought before that was a mistake. Let's see. Gilgamesh can't decide if the pen tilt feature is worth the extra money. Pen tilt? Nah, you don't need pen tilt. Like, I would say I pretty much never use pen tilt. There are a couple instances where there might be a particular brush that I set up that way. There's palette knives where normally the palette knife is, let me switch my screen here so I can gesture a little bit better. There's like a palette knife where when you draw with it, the palette knife edge is kind of upright, and then if you tilt your pen, it'll kind of rotate. But rarely do I use that brush. The brushes where you draw with the side of your pencil, like if you were doing pencil shading, very rarely use those. So, pen tilt I could definitely do without. I'm trying to think of if there's any other instances where I actually use pen tilt. I really don't think there are, so I don't think pen tilt's that important, honestly. So if that's a deciding factor, don't worry about that. But size does matter, Like if you're drawing in a little cramped space, you can only move your hand so much. I mean, I've really gone into this in so many other videos about how to draw, but a lot of people draw with their fingers and with their wrists, and that's fine for small little details. But when you really want to get good at drawing smooth lines and curves, you need to draw with your elbow. So your elbow is the axis of motion, and everything from here on up is locked in place. And then your lines are going to be much smoother, much more curvy, much straighter. So you need a pretty big tablet to do that, and the medium tablets are about the right size. Of course, bigger than that is better, but I definitely think those mediums are the way to go. Cam says Intuos Pro, the pen is better than the Pen and Touch. Definitely. I'll switch screens here so we can see this. If you want to see the two pens side by side, Now, this one here, this is the Intuos grip pen. This comes with the Cintiq, the Intuos Pro, and the Cintiq Companion has kind of a variation of this, but it's still basically the same pen. This is kind of their standard grip pen. It's a really good pen. It has 2 buttons on the side. It has an eraser on the bottom. It has a nice rubbery grip that doesn't come off of the pen. Like some of those cheap Chinese pens, this little rubber thing comes off. That's kind of annoying. It's a nice pen, nice and light, doesn't take batteries. This is the pen that comes with the Intuos Pen and Touch Small and Medium. And it has 2 buttons. It has an eraser. It has a slightly different rubber grip. Still a pretty good pen. I would say that this one feels a little bit better weight-wise. Like it's a little bit more balanced when you're drawing with it. Whereas this one, it feels a little heavier on the back end, where this one feels heavier on the front end. And I think that's better because you want the front end to be heavier. So they're different, but they're very similar. You know, I think most people probably wouldn't notice a difference between these 2 pens, but quality-wise, yes, these professional pens are quite a bit better. One thing to note, though, the Pen and Touch actually has an eraser, but the newer models like the Intuos Art and the Intuos Draw and the Intuos Photo and the Intuos Comic, they don't have an eraser. Now, is the eraser even important? Like, you know, I rarely use the eraser. Sometimes I'll use it. I don't like to flip my pen over, though. I think that's kind of a time killer. So usually I'll just use the eraser tool and erase with the pen tip. They're both going to come with nibs. The Intuos Pen and Touch Small only comes with a few nibs, and they're just basic plastic nibs, whereas the Intuos Pro pen here, the grip pen, I think it comes with about 10 nibs or so, and there's a variety. There's plastic nibs, there's felt nibs, there's a rubbery nib, and there's a spring nib. There might be like maybe one other kind in there. So you'll have more nibs if you get this particular model. Oh, I really wish you could see, like every time I look over at my stream, my video is glitching out. Are you guys seeing that? Am I spazzing out? Like, can't remember what that guy's name was. There was some 80s digital, what's his name? I'll think of it. Some 80s character that was like this, like, just digital guy on a screen. Max Hard Drive or something like that was his name. It'll come to me. If anybody in the audience was around in the 80s, they'll know. Gilgamesh says, okay, so definitely the Pro Series. Yeah, definitely the Pro Series, but that, you know, that small will be okay, but if you can get the medium, you'd have the perfect tablet if you got the medium. Like, it would be hard to get a better tablet than that. You know, the large is probably the only tablet that would be better, and that's just because it's larger. Cam said in Malaysia they spent about $1,500 for the tablet. Wow, is that $1,500 in Malaysian currency, or is that converted to US dollars? Because that's pretty expensive. I'm guessing that's probably Malaysian currency. Gilgamesh says sometimes mixed for hobby and sometimes for commissions. And then they won't use the buttons and all. Then, you know, if you're not going to use the pen tilt, you're not going to use the buttons, you probably should go with the bigger size tablet then in that case, and I would get the Intuos Pen and Touch Medium. If you don't mind saving up a little bit more to have those extra features and to have a bigger tablet, then I would get the Intuos Pro Medium. So I hope that helps. Sorry to be such a pain about answering that question. Landon has to go do some errands. Hopefully they can come to more of my streams. Yes, Landon, please do. And just so everybody knows, down at the bottom, or I guess over on the side here, I have this little bar, and what I'm advertising here today, along with my live stream, is I'm going to be doing a 4-hour live stream with challenge.org, and I'm going to be raising money for charity. Now, this is something that will happen if I reach my funding goal, and if you go to challenge.org/Aaron Rutten, You can read all about the challenge, what the funding goal is, and if you want to donate to help make that challenge possible, once I reach the funding goal, then I'll schedule that live stream. And that live stream will be a 4-hour live stream where I'll take fan requests. So if you say, you know, draw me a jack-o'-lantern or draw me Frankenstein or whatever, I'll draw fan requests. So it'll be pretty fun. So you can go check that out if you're interested. But besides that live stream, you know, I do other non-charity related live streams. I'm going to be raising money for charity for water.org. Got some water here. And the water.org is committed to helping make clean drinking water and water sanitation sustainable in underdeveloped countries. So it's a really good cause. And 50% of all donations go directly to water.org for that purpose. So it'll be a fun live stream, and I hope y'all can join me for that. Cam says not converted to USD. Good. That would have been a really expensive tablet if it was $1,500. You could have gotten a Cintiq for that much. Gilgamesh says it's for the drawing, not the buttons. Yeah, I mean, one thing to consider too is like my first few tablets were non-Wacom tablets. They didn't have any shortcut keys. They had just a basic pen, and all they really had was pen pressure. But they were big tablets. I think my first tablet was an 8x6, and the next one I got was a 9x12. And I've never gone below that medium size. Now I have this Intuos Pen and Touch Small, but this is because I reviewed it. You know, I don't really use this tablet that often. Occasionally, when I had a laptop, I would bring it with me because it's nice and small and thin, easier to bring than one of the bigger tablets. But I like the big gesture space, which is why I'm using a Cintiq 24, because I can really move my arm around and draw, and that makes a big difference when you're drawing. You know, if you're drawing commissions or line art or anything, you need that. You need to be able to move your arm. You can't be confined to your wrist and your fingers, otherwise it's going to be hard to draw. I told you it's hard for me to talk and draw. It's like I can do one or the other. I won't stress too much about making this absolutely perfect. So I'm not going to like really clean up the edges here like I probably normally would do. So I'm just going to try to make some more progress on this. I'm going to fill the background with a darker color, and maybe we'll add some shading to that with the airbrush. Make kind of a vignette here. And then I can turn off the mirror painting mode, because I think at this point I don't need any more symmetry. Go to the stem layer, turn on preserve transparency so that I don't paint outside of that shape. And then I'm going to decide that maybe my light's going to be on the top right. So that's where I'm going to put the highlight for my stem. Something like that. And then we'll put a shadow on the opposite side. That needs to be darker though. That looks pretty good. And then I'll use the detail oils just to draw on that little edge. Like the top of the stem is kind of rounded. So I'll do that to kind of separate it. And then let's do some shading on the pumpkin. So let's pick the shadow side first and put that in. This whole far side where the light's not reaching, and the underside are going to have some shadow. Then we'll put a highlight on the opposite side. Something like that. Let's make a little reflected light on our pumpkin here. Maybe we'll have some of this purpley color from the background kind of reflected. And if you have any questions about what I'm doing here, or how I paint, or any questions about being an artist, or making digital art, feel free to comment in. Let's see. Trying to think of how detailed I want to do this. Because I don't want to spend a lot of time painting these little grooves, you know, like pumpkins have kind of ridges in them, and that takes a long time to paint, and I'm really not trying to make this like a pumpkin painting tutorial. It's supposed to be more of a Q&A, so I think I'm going to keep this kind of simple. Maybe I'll just have it glowing. So let's go to the face layer, and let's put in some glowing. Like so. And then I'm going to, that's just a little layer I put on earlier. I'm going to delete these layers that I'm not using anymore. Turn off preserve transparency, create a new layer. Call this vignette, set this to multiply. Fill the canvas with that. And then I'm going to use white to just mask out some of that. I'll make this look like it's glowing in the dark here. And I'll create a new layer on top of that, call that glow, change that to a screen composite method. I can use the glow brush to just kind of make these look like they're glowing. That's maybe too much. Let's go back here a little bit. Maybe something like that works better. And then the pumpkin, let's add some texture to the pumpkin. So I'm going to do select layer content, and I'm going to create a new layer. Pumpkin texture. Set that to multiply, pick a dark orangey color. I'm going to hide these selection edges by doing show hide selection. And I'll use the chalk brush. Let's find a nice paper. Let's use polypable, which is found under organismal paper textures. Make sure it's inverted. So give us some texture. And then we can blend that a little bit with the coarse oily blender. I'm going to kind of blend following the contour. So the contour kind of curves around. It's flat on front, and then on the sides it curves a lot more. Kind of like a globe. Reduce the opacity of that layer. So my texture is just kind of subtle. And then let's go to the face layer. Let's right click on that and choose select layer content. Let's hide that selection with Control-Shift-H. Let's create a new layer. Let's call this face inner, because we need a little bit of edge here on the pumpkin so that it looks three-dimensional, like it's been carved. So we can accomplish that like this. Then we'll need to do a little shading to that as well. So I'll turn on preserve transparency. Add a little bit of shading, like so. Go back to the pumpkin layer. And this is looking kind of dull, I guess. So I wonder if I can just make this pop a little bit more. I'm going to go to Effects, Tonal Control, Adjust Colors. And let me cancel out real quick. I think I need to deselect my selection first with Control D. Then I'll try that. Blue pumpkin. We don't want it to be blue, so we'll just leave the hue alone. I want to increase the saturation a little bit. Do it before and after, that kind of helps a little bit. And then let's go to the stem layer. I'm not doing a whole lot of Q&A this time, but that's okay. Put a little reflection on that stem, because if this is glowing, it's going to be reflecting off the far side of the stem. And let's go back to that pumpkin layer. I'm just going to kind of enhance the edges here by painting along them. Helps this look kind of curved. Maybe I'll add a new layer. Get a selection of that pumpkin. Doing these selection tricks kind of helps all the paint stay within that area. I'll call this shadow, turn off preserve transparency, and use multiply. I feel like we need to darken it a bit more in some areas. Maybe we'll decide we'll have the light kind of coming more from the face rather than the environment. Add a little bit of shadow along the eyes here too. That helps it look kind of curved in, like it's been carved. And then let's go add another layer. Let's add some more environment color. If you're just tuning in, this is a Q&A live stream. I am doodling here, and you can just kind of hang out and watch me doodle if you want. Or if you have questions about digital art or being a digital artist, you can feel free to comment in and ask me those questions. And go to that stem layer and add a little bit of that purplish color too. I need to deselect my selection. That's kind of starting to come together a little bit more now. So I think I'm going to add some layers on top of everything for some color washes. So it'll kind of tint everything all together. I'm going to choose overlay for the composite method, choose orange, and then fill. I'll give it a nice glow. I'll back that down a little bit, like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and save my artwork really quick, because I'm going to add a mask, and occasionally when you're masking in Painter, things can crash, and I'd hate to lose all my effort and look like a fool during my live stream, so I'm going to save first. And then I'm going to add a mask to that wash layer. Select black and use the airbrush to mask away the outer edges. So that's just basically kind of erasing that orange glow that I put over everything. I'm going to keep it in the center, but I'm going to remove it on the edges. And then there's this nice orange to purple transition. That looks pretty good. And I wonder what else I'll do to this. I'm going to go ahead and one more time. I'm going to save a copy. Oh, see, there we go. We got a crash. Now, the good thing is about Painter 2016 even if your artwork crashes, it's going to save a backup file, and that backup file is generally going to be exactly how you left it. So I'm going to go to Close Program, and then what I like to do is just do a search for Painter, recovered, Painter 2016 recovered files, and there it is. So now if we open this, it'll be that same file before it crashed. It's something about complex masks that just really likes to crash Painter. It's also probably that I'm doing the live stream and that's eating up a lot of my computer resources, because it generally happens a lot when I'm recording tutorials and stuff like that. So you can see it's back to normal. Got all my layers again. I'm going to right click on that mask and choose Apply Layer Mask. That'll make it not have that issue anymore. And then I'm going to save as again because I need to resave this. That's why I saved a copy before I created the mask. It's always wise to do. I got a question. Cam asks, do I have any Grayscale artwork or do it next live stream? Yeah, I could do one next live stream. I do have some Grayscale artwork. If you look on my website, aaronrutten.com, I have an art gallery that'll show you kind of a broad range of all the different artwork that I've made, and a lot of it is kind of grayscale and monochromatic. Not a lot of it, but some of it is. I don't know if I don't have any tutorials that I can think of on grayscale painting, but I know I have a lot of tutorials that teach you how to paint in grayscale first and then glaze over it to add color, so you could check those out. Off the top of my head, I believe that there's one for painting an apple. I believe that one's in grayscale, and then you add color over that. But you can just check out some of my tutorials, and it would be mainly in the series of videos called Draw This, which is what this jack-o'-lantern was part of last Halloween. I did a more detailed jack-o'-lantern. You can watch the video on how to do that. And just as a little sneak preview for everybody, I'm going to be doing another Halloween episode this year. I might do multiple episodes, but the first one, which will be out probably next Friday, is going to be how to paint a sugar skull, which are those Mexican Dia de los Muertos skull things. So that's already in the works, and it'll be available soon. So I've gone ahead and saved my artwork. I'm going to drop all my layers now so that I can do some blending. Blending is going to help this look less flat. So I'm going to choose coarse oily blender. Blend with that here on the stem. And if I zoom in, you can see what that's doing. See, it added all that stem texture just by blending. And we want to blend that into the pumpkin as well. Just like that. And then we could blend the pumpkin itself to add some texture. This kind of implies those little curves and contours that pumpkins have. I just didn't feel like drawing those in manually because you have to do the highlight and the shadow on both sides, and it's kind of a lot of work. I'm feeling lazy today. And then if that's too sharp in some places, you can use the diffuse blur to go through and just kind of blend that up a little bit. I'll just soften some of those areas and make them less sharp. And then what helps digital pieces like this the most is to soften the edges, because the edges are super sharp, and when you're working in traditional media, you usually don't get such sharp edges. So I like to use the blur blender for that. Basically, I'm just going to blur along all of the edges just to soften them so they're not super sharp. So anywhere there's a hard edge, I'm just painting over it a few times. You especially want to do this on the outer edges of everything, because those outer edges are moving away from you in three-dimensional space, and so they're generally more out of focus. If you've ever played around with a camera and the aperture, you know that you can control the focal distance. That's probably not showing up so well through the live stream, but it definitely made a difference there on my end. And then maybe what I'll do is I will use the Distorto brush to pull in a couple little chunks here. It's making little dents on the edges so that maybe it looks like it's not like a perfect edge. And then I'm trying to think of what else to do to this piece. Let's zoom back out and look at it. I just had an idea. Oh, okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm going to right click on this layer. Oops, actually I'm not. I'm going to select all, I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to go to Effects, Focus, Soften. I'm going to soften that duplicate quite a bit. I'm going to add a mask to that duplicate layer. I'm going to select black. I probably should have saved my artwork since I created a mask, but I'm feeling kind of rebellious today, so maybe I'm not going to do that. We'll just hope to get lucky here and hope the computer doesn't crash. What I'm doing is I'm masking out some of that blur. And then that's going to kind of help to make the edges kind of fade out a little bit more. I don't know if you can see that here. If I do a before and after, this kind of softens everything along the edges. I'm going to drop all layers again. Do a save as. Save this as another copy. And then I think that looks pretty good for the jack-o'-lantern. I don't know if I'll really want to add much more to that. Maybe we'll add one more layer of overlay. Put some interesting effects on this. Let's just throw in some green for no reason at all. Might look kind of cool. I wonder if that's better than the purple. What do you all think? Do you like the purple better, or do you like this green tint better? Both kind of nice colors. I'll hang out a little bit and wait, because I know the stream takes a minute to catch up to everybody. And then I'll probably go ahead and wrap up this stream, because we're almost at an hour now. But again, I would like to encourage you all to join me for the challenge.org live stream. It hasn't happened yet, and it's not going to happen unless the funding goal is reached. So if you want to help make that happen, you can go to challenge.org/Aaron Rutten and make a donation, and you'll get rewards for that. So for instance, if you wanted like a shout out in the live stream, you could donate $10 to help make the challenge possible. And for all the $10 donors, I'll say your name or your handle, or your website, anything that's not offensive during that special 4-hour live stream. And there's a bunch of other different rewards you can get depending on how much you donate. And you know, if the challenge happens, whether you donated anything or not, you'll still be able to watch it live, so that's good too. You don't necessarily have to donate to watch the live stream. I'm going to do a little more blending while I wait here. Feel free to let me know what you think. If you think that the purple color scheme looked better, I can change it back to that, or I can leave it as this green color scheme here. Not really sure which I like better. I'll continue adding some more details here while I wait. Just little dots and specks and things. I'm going to just make sure that I'm using the right color though, because when I was sampling my color from that overlay, I was getting that color with the other color mixed into it. Let's paint along the edges to make some of these stand out a little bit more. Maybe I'll put in some yellow, some brighter yellows here along the edges. Those will really look nice and shiny. Like the light is inside the pumpkin. That needs to be brighter though. This one's really close to light. That helps a little bit. Kim says it's 4:30, time to sleep. I agree. We should probably all, whoever's up late should probably go to sleep. I still got the whole day ahead of me, so I'm going to continue working, but I am going to end this live stream. I appreciate you joining us, Cam, and I hope to see you again. Thanks for joining us from Malaysia. So I take it that since there's only one person left watching, that everyone's kind of at the end of their attention span here, as am I. So I'm going to go ahead and call this a finished little painting of a jack-o'-lantern. Again, if you want to join me for a challenge at challenge.org/AaronRutten, please do, because you can request fan drawings during a 4-hour live stream. So I hope we can work together to make that possible, and I hope to see you at that live stream. Thanks for watching this one, and if you want to get updates when I release other live streams, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. That's youtube.com/AaronRutten. So thanks everybody who joined me today, and I'll see you next time.